HR thought they were firing me, but they accidentally triggered my $8.9 million golden parachute. Caitlin handed me a cardboard box and said, "Today is your last day." I nodded, looked her straight in the eye and replied, "Clause 19B. The absolute color drained from her face, washing away every ounce of corporate smugness she had walked into my cubicle with. I couldn't stop thinking about that exact expression, that sudden, terrifying realization dawning on her slick, manicured face, as I sat here now in the quiet loneliness of my suburban Chicago kitchen, illuminated only by the pale, humming light inside an open refrigerator at 3 a.m. My mind kept returning to the smell of burnt office coffee, the fluorescent hum of the fifth-floor corridor at Zenith Logistics, and the endless late-night television infomercials playing softly in the background while I processed the wreckage of my career. I remembered the board meetings, the cold leather chairs in downtown Manhattan, and the way the executives used to talk over me as if I were invisible. I had spent 8 years of my life building Zenith's automated supply chain architecture from the ground up, sacrificing weekends, holidays, and any semblance of a personal life. My mind drifted back to a freezing November night 3 years ago, sitting in my cramped apartment in Evanston, watching the glow of my monitor while my phone buzzed endlessly with missed calls from my younger sister back in Ohio. She had been coaching my nephew's Little League baseball team, trying to get me to come out to the field, to breathe some fresh air, to remember what a sunlit afternoon looked like. I told her I couldn't. I told her that Zenith needed me, that Mr. Sterling, the CEO, relied on my algorithms to keep the company afloat. Sterling didn't care about my Little League memories or my family. He cared about profit margins and trimming fat. And today they decided I was the fat that needed trimming. Caitlin, the senior vice president of human resources, had walked in holding a cheap brown cardboard box like it was a weapon. She thought she was executing a routine termination, a quiet disposal of a senior analyst whose salary had finally triggered alarms on the quarterly finance reports. She didn't read the fine print of the master employment contract drafted during the hostile corporate merger back in 2021, a contract that my predecessor, an old mentor of mine who had since retired to Florida, had meticulously bulletproofed. Clause 19B wasn't just a standard termination clause. It was a structural tripwire. It stated that if an employee with critical infrastructural tenure was terminated without gross negligence or verifiable malfeasance within 36 months of a major operational restructure, the company was legally obligated to execute an immediate, non-negotiable retention payout equivalent to 3% of the division's total evaluated market valuation at the time of the split, an evaluation that currently sat at a staggering $296 million. $8.9 million. Dropped right into my account, bypassing board approval straight from the automatic corporate escrow vault. I closed the refrigerator door, plunging the kitchen back into warm, protective darkness, and walked over to the kitchen window. The suburban neighborhood outside was dead silent, houses locked tight against the chill of the early morning. I wrapped my hands around a mug of lukewarm chamomile tea, watching the steam curl upward into the air. The realization of what had just happened was finally settling into my bones. For years, I had measured my worth by how many hours I could give to a corporation that viewed me as a disposable line item. I had let them consume my youth, my time, and my peace of mind, believing the lie that loyalty would eventually be rewarded with security. But security in the corporate world was an illusion. The only true security came from knowing your own value, preparing for the worst, and always reading the fine print. The twist wasn't just that I had outsmarted them. It was that they had done it to themselves out of sheer arrogance. Sterling and his board had been so blinded by their own greed and desire to slash overhead costs that they hadn't even bothered to run my termination packet through legal compliance. They trusted Caitlin's automated HR software, and Caitlin trusted her own superficial authority. By the time I walked out of that glass-walled office building with my little cardboard box containing a single stapler and a framed photograph of my cat, the wire transfer was already processing. My phone had buzzed in my pocket just as I reached the revolving lobby doors. A quiet notification from my bank confirming an incoming deposit that would change my life forever. I took a slow sip of the tea, letting the warmth spread through my chest. The fear and exhaustion that had defined my life for the past decade suddenly felt distant, like a storm blowing away over a dark horizon. I didn't need Zenith Logistics anymore. I didn't need the fluorescent lights, the burnt coffee, or the crushing weight of someone else's bottom line. A faint, knowing smile crossed my face in the dark kitchen. The sun would be rising soon over Chicago, painting the skyline in shades of gold and amber. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, the morning felt entirely mine. If this story of unexpected justice and standing your ground touched your heart today, please take a quick moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means everything and helps us bring more powerful stories to life. Thank you so much for watching, and may your own paths always lead to justice.